Do not adjust your radio dial. You are tuned in to the Mark Order Podcast. Join the Mark Order.
It's Wednesday nights. You know what that means. It means that Asian Joe has abandoned us for a second week in a row. A third week, I think. My God. I just also
You abandoned me the 1 week, yeah.
But we're so excited to talk about AEW Dynamite tonight. Ryan, I feel like we're kind of like getting much closer to being quote unquote back on track with things over here in AEW world. Did you feel that way after tonight?
I do. This was a very solid episode.
Yeah, we're going to dig into all of that. But if you could please leave a thumbs up on this video, that would be so awesome. If you could subscribe to our YouTube channel, that would mean a lot as well. Ophelia calling out Joe, saying, skipping out on the grind again, off like opening medical centers like some sort of chump, as if healthcare is more important than wrestling. That's ridiculous. That's a ridiculous. Don't approve at all. But Ryan, we are fully in the holiday season.
Holiday season.
I went Christmas shopping earlier. I love that you went for that fantastic Christmas song, The Holiday Season. My dad loves that song because he's like, whoop-de-doo, dickory dock, don't forget to hang up your sock is some of the like, what a stretch of Christmas lyric songwriting with that one. Like, obviously you mean stocking, but whoop-de-doo, dickory dock, don't forget to hang up your sock is like, it's not great. It's not great.
What is happening here?
First Tony Storm, now Joe? Oh my God.
I have no idea what happened tonight. I have to go back and watch that. I got home and heard some slander and wanted to make sure it wasn't 3 weeks in a row.
Well, it is because that's how many weeks you decided to bail on us, Joe, quite frankly. And you keep running off to these other things that you claim are so important, like opening cancer centers and medical resources to people. If there's anything I'm confident about right now in this country, it is healthcare. So I don't know why you feel the need to go opening medical centers like you're some sort of hero when there's something so much more important on, like the Dynamite Diamond Ring finals, Joe. I mean, cancer, Diamond Ring finals. You choose.
Well, cancer was last week. We moved on to an innovation of healthcare now this week.
Oh, God. Oh, so now what? Progress is important? Please.
Mm-hmm.
Please. Oh, advancements in medicine are a good thing all of a sudden around here. Come on. JK, you missed the episode, but thought you'd pop on here because we were talking mad shit. Is that what happened here?
Yeah, that I just missed everyone. No, I missed Ryan's face.
Of course you did.
It usually haunts my dreams, but you know.
Notice you said dreams, not nightmares. Just saying.
Night terrors, yeah.
The Judas in your mind is Ryan.
He's a lot of things.
That hurts.
It's fair. Well, how are you, Joe? It's been a couple weeks. How we doing?
I think I'm doing well. Tired.
Okay.
I had a cold one time or something, but other than that, yeah, everyone's doing well. And Kate, Ryan, I feel like I'm meeting you for the first time again. That's been so long.
I know. I've definitely never missed multiple weeks in a row, so I can't relate to that at all. But glad that you are you gonna stick around, or are you just popping on to say hi? It's up to you.
I don't know if you're gonna do a break or if you're just gonna run through. But
well, we are. I was gonna talk about some stuff, but Ryan, I'll check in on how you're doing over there, buddy. How you been this week?
I was doing wonderfully, and then I feel like someone insulted me, and now my heart hurts. But
I mean, you were just told you were the object of someone's dreams.
I know, but then he kind of said it insultingly, and that just cuts me to the core.
I feel like
No,
that's how
it's like-
you interpreted it.
Yeah, take the W, man. Like you
Take
were
the
there.
W. Take the W.
We'll see. But otherwise, I'm lovely.
You're lovely. You're lovely over there. Well, Joe, if you want spoilers, I was gonna lead off by talking about a couple of returns that we got tonight, as well as some
I
of the
I
drama.
deserve it. Yeah, I missed it, so I spoil away.
Well, this is your chance to bail if you want to. But before we dive into those, we'll talk about. It felt like last week we were hot off the heels of As the Starks Turns with Ricky Starks, and then this week it's felt like as the Phoenix rotates. It's it's some dramatic tweets, whether they're viable or not. They're certainly heavy in their accusation kind of and content from Ray Phoenix, basically alleging that AEW didn't give him proper medical treatment. AEW hasn't, and I don't think legally probably can comment very much on what was going on with Ray Phoenix at that time. I don't know that much about HIPAA. I'm not Mr. Healthcare of this podcast, but I would imagine, one, that they probably can't, and two, there was nothing to be gained there. Like, best case scenario, you look like you're picking on a guy who was injured for a big part of his stint. But WrestleVote's released today, and I was wondering if this was true. This isn't confirmed by anybody else, I don't think. But is that going to make WWE take pause about the way Ray Phoenix is handling himself? They had said yes, that certainly this isn't like we're not going to sign him anymore, but it is, we're going to look into the situation before we do. One, if you're getting someone that's chronically injured, that might change how you view things a little bit. And two, somebody kind of going on social media and posting about these things, that's something that has gotten WWE in a lot of hot water in the past, most notably with a guy named CM Punk, who just recently came back around. So that's not something that I think there's incredibly clear lines on. Phoenix has been injured for so much of his reign. I believe that he was injured before he was sitting out, but it certainly doesn't feel like he was neglected with. I can't speak to the treatment that he got or when he got it, but like, it doesn't feel like they've been pushing for this guy to come back in the ring. He's been injured for, huge stints at a time. So this situation just sucks. It sucks from both ends. I don't really have an opinion on it because I don't think I'll ever know enough information to form an opinion on it. But it does make you wonder, like, is it worth keeping this guy under contract to keep paying him, or do you just let him go free? I'm wondering if post WrestleMania they cut their losses on some people. But Joe, what are your thoughts on the Ray Phoenix situation? Do you have any thoughts? My conclusion was I don't know enough about what's out there to really draw a conclusion.
Yeah, I always feel like the truth is some middle between things, and not knowing, if what Ray Phoenix is saying is completely accurate, or what his interpretation of things are compared to AEW's. I don't know if I'm WWE, what I'm thinking, are you the person in a relationship that's like, once they come over here, we can fix you. It won't be like this with us. We'll prevent a nice, safe, warm environment for you, and we won't hurt each other. But yeah, so I'm not sure. You brought up the example. I thought that was a good one, where they've had similar instances of people voicing their opinions online. So there's at least a precedent of them handling it before, so they can feel comfortable in doing that. But I'm hoping he gets to WWE with Penta.
Yeah, the other interesting thing about WWE is it doesn't feel like they need anybody right now. If there's anybody they need, it's probably a tag team, and a fun lucha act that could come in as baby faces is not a bad way to go. But WWE right now is like setting record after record after record. They don't really need any headaches. Now, that being said, they didn't really need CM Punk back, and he was about as high risk of anybody coming back from a behavioral standpoint as you could get at the time, right? So I think they're willing to probably roll the dice on something that feels a little bit more minor and probably justified at least to an extent. But Ryan, what are your thoughts on Ray Phoenix here?
It's hard to judge because it all comes so out of context. Like,
Yeah,
it's 2 tweets and then silences from what I can tell. And there's so many conflicting stories out there on if it was actually about AEW, if it was about something else. It's hard to judge. I'm not a big fan of that method of trying to get your way.
yeah.
I just think it encourages bad responses from the company who has your contract because
Sure.
but
They can still pull you from stuff. Yeah, like they could just cost you more money.
it's just a weird situation overall that they need to do something about one way or the other. Either he needs to address it or someone does, because it just makes everyone look bad, and that's just stupid.
Yeah, I thought the fact that the more clear one, he had tweeted something to "You don't want to stay where there's inhumane treatment," and some people thought that was immigration related, which would have been fair. And then he said, "I needed a doctor for months and you didn't get me one." That tweet coming the morning, I think it was the morning of that All-In presser in Texas, I felt like was particularly bad form because it felt like you were taking a shot at a company you're still working with while they're at a major event. So I didn't think that was the best way to go about it, but I think for a lot of people, it seems like the temperature is he probably has a justifiable gripe, but this isn't the best way to go about business, is where I feel like most people have been standing because there is so little information about the situation. But that seems like a reasonable thermometer of what good can come of it. Like, I don't think you tweeting stuff is going to force the hand of a release. So it just makes everybody in the situation look not great. But unfortunate news. There was also something that got reported by my boss at Fightful that he took down because nobody could seem to get their shit together on what the truth was between GCW and AEW. He rarely tweets or posts things of of a frustrated nature in this way, but he said, "I'm just taking the post down until people can get their shit straight." Willie Mack, who is signed to AEW, which I think a lot of people didn't even know because he has not been on the show in so long. He worked the Texas tapings a little bit. I believe he's from the area for ROH when they were there, but he was supposedly pulled from upcoming GCW dates. It is rumored ROH is getting television, and so they might be wanting to use him for Final Battle. They might want to be using him on television if that deal is done sooner than later, if it's imminent for 2025. But then Sean took the post down because I think it sounds like the left hand doesn't know what the right is doing. I would think with Willie Mack, it's not something that would be malicious as it might be. We're getting a TV deal soon, and we probably want to use someone like Willie Mack on television. He's one of the best, most reliable, most engaging characters that you can have. So I don't think that was like we're being shitty at GCW. I am a little tired of the GCW chip on the shoulder thing. It's feeling a lot more like whining of recent. Regardless of what you thought with Effie, who I love Effie, but tripling down just felt like a weak move to me. Some of the stuff that Brett Lauderdale has posted, it makes me skeptical because if you look at their Hammerstein numbers, they're really bad. They're really bad. I had heard, and there were some rumors about this, and I had heard from people that I trust. Like, Hammerstein costs $100,000 to run for a single event. I'm sure AEW got a discount because they're running 3 events, but from someone I know that used to work very closely with them, they had said like they barely broke even on a sellout. And right now, WrestleTix had them at like 800 something tickets out of a 2,000 capacity. And even that was tickets distributed, not sold. The Ticketmaster map looks worse. So to me, it just feels like a lot of finger pointing for no legitimate reason. Like GCW is not the first venue to ever run Hammerstein. If it was that big of a deal, they should have negotiated a non-compete. They're running in different calendar years. Like I know it's a couple weeks apart, but they're different calendar years. And a lot of the gripes that come from GCW, I'm like, okay, but at some point you got to look inward because your product's not very hot right now. They just had an Atlanta show that sold extremely poorly to the point where they were unbooking top talent. And now their own Hammerstein show, like I saw a tweet from just like a rumor account, so I don't put stock in it, but they did say something very funny, which was, it would seem the promotional tactic of reminding everybody your last show there was terrible didn't work. And that absolutely sent me. That absolutely sent me. So a lot more drama here. It feels more GCW drama than AEW drama. And it might be a big nothing burger. If Sean had to take that post down, this might be absolutely nothing. But Ryan, we'll start with you. Do you give a shit about any of this GCW stuff? Because I don't that much.
No, I really don't. It is weird that they're claiming something and then AEW's not, because AEW had no shame in denying the Ricky Starks thing where they're like, yeah, though I was about to say, why would you pull Ricky and not pull Willie Mack? But there's different contracts there too. Like, you're talking about levels of guys' contracts. So I can't compare one to the other. I just don't care. I mean, I get that they're doing I get what they're trying to do, but it's not working for me. It just isn't. Like,
I mean, my thing is it's not even working for them, right? Like it's not they're not selling tickets, so they might want to shut up. Is kind of where I'm at. But I hear you. I hear you. It makes me want to tune it out instead of on.
Yeah.
Joe, any thoughts on that?
No, I'm with you. There's those kind of junior high petty arguments of going back and forth with one another. And if they're not selling tickets, I'm wondering if they're keeping it up in the news so much to help prop them up and maybe move more tickets, to be in the news cycle a little bit longer. I think the whole argument of running shows too close to each other, I feel like there's a good enough division among AEW fans and GCW fans. Yeah, I don't feel like the majority of GCW fans are AEW fans.
Yeah, and I think last time they used a lot of AEW talent to help out, right? And this time I don't think they have that same access. For whatever reasons, I could not know or care less. But it does feel like there's a natural inclination if you are the same reason I felt like WWE shouldn't punch down to AEW. But if Eddie Kingston wants to say shit on screen about WWE, that's okay. Because number 2 punching up at number 1 is a lot different than number 1 punching down. Some people might think that's a double standard, but like I'm okay with on screen shots anytime. I don't think AEW should punch down and pull Ricky Starks for something Effie said. I get it, but that's just I think that was unnecessary with considering the situation with Starks right now anyway. But there's a big difference between taking shots at AEW in a promo and going on podcasts and going on social media and whining. Because it doesn't feel like you're taking like wrestling shots. It feels like you're being a fucking whiner. But that's that.
Yeah, no, I'm trying to see if I have any. I don't love the punching down, but at the same point, petty comments tend to get petty responses. Like,
yes, fuck around, find out, etc. Yeah.
So I mean, I don't support. Like, this all just feels lame. I don't know why.
because it does feel like Joe said very like high school. I think AEW did something good, and that Starks was immediately set up for a House of Glory match elsewhere, and Cardona is getting an ROH title shot, right? So it's the people who were affected by the actual match are immediately making money doing other stuff. So that's probably a good call. But yeah,
it feels like an argument we would have had back in the territories days, of you can't be in the Northeast while we're running the Southeast, and we can't cross paths, and you can't share talents, and I don't know. It seems silly that they have these arguments still in this day and age.
Yes, and just I didn't like the blinder of it sounding like nobody ever ran Hammerstein before GCW when it's such a part of ROH's history. Like that's the part that kind of got to me was like I would think wrestling at Hammerstein is more identified with ROH than any other promotion. Shout out to you guys in the chat. Thank you. Kylie, who is so wonderful to us. Tim McFowell, George Scott. Sorry. I'm dyslexic. Big G, Eric Freeds. Thank you guys for hanging out with us tonight. Well, we got 2 big returns. Trey, LaRon, I see you guys. Taylor, who's always so supportive. We did get 2 returns tonight. We got MJF back on screen for the first time in a long time outside of the pay-per-view. This was the first time on Dynamite with a physical presence rather than an online one. And he was there just to wreak havoc in the Dynamite Battle Royal for the ring thing, as it's called. Sold the fucking hell out of the one spot that he took. Holy crap. MJF took a super kick from Adam Cole and sold it brilliantly on the outside. And the big one at the end, very exciting that Toni Storm is back at the end of Mariah May's successful title defense, or sexful if you're Nigel McGuinness on commentary, probably. But some much needed love for that women's division and that main title picture coming back with Toni Storm. They were really smoke and mirrors up until this Mina story. So some good stuff there. Good to see MJF back. It seems like the filming on Happy Gilmore 2 has wrapped, and that's excellent news. And really great to see Toni Storm back. I really had thought that if there was a women's casino battle royal, she would be like the surprise entrant for that. But it doesn't seem like that's the direction they went. I think they wanted her back sooner than later. They got to start selling tickets for Australia. So good stuff here. Out of retirement walks Toni Storm. But Joe, you didn't see these, but hearing them, what are kind of the thoughts off the top of your head?
You forgot to add my return. I returned this week.
I was gonna say that seemed like it should be its own news item, like separate from those. Yeah,
I think the timing of having both of those people, MJF and Tony, back, I think it works out well to start the new year. And so, like I said, lead into the Australia show, and you can always do the MJF promo so long from pre-filmed vignettes. So I'm interested. I'm glad the women's division gave that shot in the arm finally to get that going, so we can do something with Mariah.
Yeah, I agree. And Lauren asking, does Mariah have a match for World's End? It seems like they're headed toward Thunder Rosa. She was ringside doing some very polarizing things. Like, some people were like, this is goofy. Some people liked it. She was holding up signs that said Mariah may not, and stuff like that. So some people thought that was fun. Some people thought that was really corny for a main event women's title defense. I'm kind of split. I can see both schools of thought. But Ryan, some major returns here tonight on Winter is Coming. Kind of not the Winter is Coming special that we're used to seeing. I think having 10 pay-per-views this year makes that kind of have handcuffs. You're not going to be doing what feels like a pay-per-view type of free TV, but a really strong episode, and we did get these returns.
We did. I'm very curious about the final return because we got a very specific Toni Storm return, not a
correct. Yeah,
timeless. You're right in that it wasn't your typical Winter's Coming. Like you said, with all the pay-per-views now, they don't need to make certain Dynamites feel like pay-per-views. I think that was the original trick. You had your 4 pay-per-views, so you'd make a Dynamite here or there feel like that level. But I mean, I'll get into the specifics when we cover it, but I was a big fan of tonight's Dynamite. It felt good.
Yeah, I think the other aspect to this too is you have the C2 going on right now, and Kyle Fletcher already has 9 points. Will Ospreay started this episode with 3, so you have an imbalance in kind of how some of the Gold League is progressing with the Blue League, and you really needed to have these matches, and they had to be great matches tonight to keep that movement going. But we're going to talk about this Dynamite. It really was a strong episode. Joe, you immediately have to go and watch it. You can no longer be on this podcast until you go and you do your homework, you eat your vegetables. That's just the way it goes.
Homework, vegetables, say my prayers, take my vitamins.
Take your vitamins, exactly. Exactly. You're also going to want to look up Will Ospreay's hair from tonight. There's a lot happening. There's a lot going on, but
I don't know what's happening.
I don't think he does. I don't know if this was a nod to Kyle Fletcher's past hair, but we're going to talk about all that and more on the other side of this commercial break. It is the holiday season. We are going to plug our t-shirts. We do encourage you to go check out the Mark Order Podcast store on Pro Wrestling Tees, where if you see our lovely background here and our logo, our 4 t-shirts have these varieties and these combinations of things. So you can check those out at Pro Wrestling Tees.
I didn't have it ready. We didn't do it last week.
No, that's okay. We also don't have to. We can dive right into the commercial break and plug those more properly at the end. But if you are buying wrestling merch around this time, I gotta say they're picking up their merch a lot over on the AEW side of things. So if you're looking at them, you want to support us along the way with your purchases, that would be awesome. We encourage you to buy 2 of each so that you have one for every day of the week, and then one for one sturdy or whatever you got to do laundry. So have a backup there. But what a professional, pulling it up right there. We're not in the mystery garage bags, I don't think, but we are right here at Mark Order Podcast on the site. You get the big versions, then you get the little baby pocket version at the back, which is my favorite. The far right and the second to the end there are both double-sided, which is why they cost a little bit more money. So check those out when you can, but we're going to talk about Dynamite on the other side of some of the great shows on the Shining Wizards Network, who our anchor show just celebrated their 13th anniversary in this game. God bless them for that. They also have some Christmas t-shirts that if you want to purchase those, you can check out. But poor Matt had surgery on his hernia, and then he had the flu over the holidays. Finally recovered. You're going to get an energetic version of him over the next couple weeks, I think. But stay tuned. What'd you say? He got one soda. That's probably why he's feeling better all of a sudden. You know what I mean? He's $765 million lesser, but his immune system suddenly kicked into full gear. But we're gonna say goodbye to Joe here, and then we're gonna talk about Dynamite on the other side of our commercial break.
Okay. Bye, Joe. Wait. I forgot I got to talk this through. Commercial overlay. And then I play the commercial.
We'd like to thank each and every one of you for tuning in every Monday night to listen to The Shining Wizards. If you'd like to continue to support us outside of listening, we've got a few ways for you to do that. If you shop at Amazon, go over to amazon.shiningwizards.com, do your shopping as usual, and when you make your purchase, a little bit of that purchase price will go back to support the show. If you like to wear t-shirts, merch.shiningwizards.com will take you to our Pro Wrestling Tees store, where we've got over a dozen great designs from over 11 years of professional wrestling podcasting. You can become a Patreon supporter at patreon.com/wizardspodcast, where each and every week we call out your name as one of our show producers, and the more you support us, the more things that you're entitled to receive, and believe me, they are fantastic. If you can't support us monetarily, if you don't shop at Amazon, that's absolutely fine. Continue to listen to us wherever you listen to us on the World Wide Web, and make sure you like, rate, review, subscribe, do all that good stuff. Doesn't cost you anything, helps us out, and we can continue to bring you the love fest that is The Shining Wizards.
What's up, folks? It's your boy, the Impact Player, Mr. Philly Ray, inviting all of you to check out the Turnbuckle Throwbacks Wrestling Podcast. Join us as we cover all things current in the world of pro wrestling, as well as paying homage to the old school, the Squared Circle. So listen in and find out why we are the recognized symbol of excellence in sports entertainment broadcasting. Find us on all social media platforms and anywhere you get your podcast from. And as always, we are the proudest members of the Shining Wizards Network and Rant Entertainment Media.
Are you tired of being lied to every day by the mainstream media?
Do you want to know what's really going on in the world?
Do you want to make up your own mind about things and not be told what to think or say?
Then listen to Inconclusive Breakdown, a weekly anti-PC look at the world of entertainment and current events brought to you without censorship or filters.
You can find us everywhere you listen to podcasts, BitChute, and on ShiningWizardsNetwork.com.
And also, we're a proud member of the Shining Wizards Network.
Got 30 minutes to kill?
Come check out 30 Screams or Less, where we review a horror movie in 30 minutes or less. We cover new movies and old ones too.
We'll give our honest thoughts on the movie, good or shit, as well as a rating of each one that we watch.
New episodes weekly, available on the Shining Wizards Network and wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts.
I'm Steve.
And I'm Corey.
Come check us out at 30 Screams or Less.
G'day guys, my name is Thomas, one half of the Broadcast Podcast. With our podcast, we go back and watch wrestling events from WWE, WWF, WCW, ECW, AEW, and many other wrestling promotions. You can check us out on Twitter at The Broadcast, that's TheBrokast, and you can also download all episodes on Apple Podcast, Castbox, Castro, and many other podcast apps.
You like your music heavy? Then check out Radioactive Metal on the Shining Wizards Network. For over 16 years now, Radioactive Metal has been one of the longest running podcasts. Over the years, we've interviewed some legendary metal acts, had some awesome discussions, and cranked a hell of a lot of tunes. So join your cool Uncle Snowy and his co-host Aaron for the audio mosh pit that is Radioactive Metal here on the Shining Wizards Network.
Well, the action is underway!
What's up, everyone? When on the Shining Wizards Network, be sure to check out Wrestling Night in Canada. If we're not recording another kick-ass podcast,
Or playing in punk bands.
Or recording kick-ass heavy metal albums.
then we're sitting back, we're grabbing a couple brews, and going over everything to do in the world of pro wrestling.
Because we're from Winnipeg, you idiots.
The Mark Order Podcast is the only show you need if you're looking for dedicated coverage of everything AEW on the Shining Wizards Network. Join us live on YouTube every Wednesday night at 10:15 p.m. Eastern after Dynamite to chat along with the show. If you can't join us live, listen to us on your favorite podcast platform. Follow us on all social channels at Mark Order Pod and use the hashtag #JoinTheMarkOrder, because if you don't find us,
we will find you.
I'm Kevin Rowe.
I'm Al Day.
And we're a couple of down-under-pounders that co-host Rogue Day Dots, an action figure collecting podcast where we talk about, well, just about anything that tickles our fancy at any given moment.
We're grumpy old men, and sometimes people get on our nerves. And when you get on our nerves, guess what? You get off the lawn.
Get off my lawn, asshole! We also go on a little bit of a mission. We go back and we're grading every wrestling figure line that's out there. I'm talking LJNs. I'm talking Jacks. I'm talking Hasbros. Who doesn't like a little Hulkaplex? It's a Gorilla Brain wrestling podcast production found on the Shining Wizards Network.
I'm Duke Bags.
Kevin Rowe.
And together we are the co-hosts of Your Duke and Road. If you want to hear about some terrible wrestling shows, we got you covered.
Well, we talk about good ones, too.
We're currently talking about the death of WCW.
I know what we're fucking talking about. Sometimes we get guest spots, like from the Taskmaster. I like to listen to the Your Duke and Rope podcast. They're funny guys. I like when they talk about the Nards plows. I like Nards plows. That's a good move. And I like the Dungeon of Doom. You know, sometimes I call my butt the Dungeon of Doom. Thanks, guys.
Yeah. Oklahoma.
Let me tell you a little bit about my favorite wrestling podcast. All right. It's a podcast from two men, Duke Banks, Kevin Rowe. They talk about professional wrestling. It's a man's sport. All right? And who better to talk about a man's sport than two men? Oklahoma.
And once in a while, Vince Russo stops by.
Whoa, you piece of shit! If you're not listening to the You're a Duke and Rowe podcast in the back with the boys, you piece of shit, I don't know what you're doing. It's, you gotta slide one in there. If you're a man, you're talking about something only a man can do. You're talking about sliding one in there. Bro, take the time to slide one in there. All right, bro, you piece of shit. Slide one in there. A Gorilla Brain Wrestling podcast production that you can find on the Shining Wizards Network.
Sorry, my mic went out of mute there for a second, but we are back. I love that on our commercial break, the chat buried you. That was lovely.
No, I saw that. I don't know how to respond.
Well, you don't have to, okay? But we will say hi, Jesse Ozog.
Jesse was the one who insulted me.
Well, let's get into this episode of Dynamite. Guys, chat along with us if you would be so kind. Please leave a thumbs up. Matthew Rodriguez, who says he's new here. Well, sorry you just walked into us literally flipping off one of the people that we love most as a bit. But thank you so much for hanging out. Your timing is really good. We're actually just about to dive into Dynamite. We had talked a little bit about some of the news and notes, some of the surprises that we got, but we're going to dive back into the show itself right away. You know how I feel about Nigel, but like, what a difference. What a difference on commentary from, I love Daddy Magic and I don't want to hamper on this too much, but I feel like anytime Nigel is on commentary, it really ups the quality of the show. Like so many times there were just like wrestler perspective things he chimed in with tonight. What did you kind of think of this announced desk? It makes a big difference for me, especially with the tournament matches.
Yeah, you need someone on the desk who provides like wrestler level insight, and Daddy Magic just, for whatever reason, that's not the route he usually goes. He does it a little bit, but he's a little more aggressive, where Nigel's more cerebral in his approach.
Yeah,
Like
and I think
Taz
the
is.
relationship with Danny Garcia just like kind of hit. He's still kind of a character on the show, where Nigel
Exactly.
is an announcer on the show who wrestled a few times, and obviously has his history. But with you there. But we do start with our oddball little trios match here. You have your AEW World Champion Jon Moxley and your AEW Trios Champions Pac versus Switchblade Jay White and Orange Cassidy. Sorry, a tag team match, not a trios match. But this
But
was
they did mention trios a couple times, so I get why you were.
Yes, and two of them. There's one member of the trios champions in this, and we're obviously leading to some sort of like a 3-on-3 combo that has been pushed very heavily toward us. So my apologies for that, but this was really, really fun mix of styles, and I loved all of it except for the ending. I felt like we got a SmackDown ending. We have Jon Moxley and Pac getting DQ'd because Hangman Adam Page runs in to attack Moxley, but the in-ring on this was fantastic. Like, anytime we're starting off Dynamite with hot in-ring, it makes me so happy. I was complaining about that when they weren't doing it. And this was so fun because you have Switchblade and Orange Cassidy, who not only work differently, but they're such different types of faces that it was just such a blast, because I feel like there's such a caginess about Jay White, even when he is a face, that all that cleverness really comes into play. And then on top of that, you have Orange Cassidy, who in his wheelhouse, he's not a white meat baby face because he's not so like, gosh, I'm Orange Cassidy and I'm always here to do the right thing. But he's about as much of a face as you get. Like, crowd is absolutely in love with him. He could really go. He does things the right way without patting himself on the back about it. But I loved the balance that you had on that side of the ring. Pac is freaking ridiculous. Jon Moxley is there to beat ass. That part was all fun until we got this SmackDown ass ending, which I do not like. I don't like Hangman Page coming in for the DQ, but I also understand like what they were setting up at World's End. You kind of had to do this to get from A to B, or to get from A to C. This is step B, in other words. So I was enjoying the match. I felt like this Death Rider stuff just isn't clicking for me though. Like the drama is not there for how violent they are. But I understand where we were going. I understand why they did it this way. It makes wrestling sense. It's just not my favorite way to go about business.
So, match was excellent. I think you covered that pretty well. I mean, you got all that quality in the match. There's no way it's going to be bad. The ending wouldn't bother me if it was the only one, if like the Death Rider stuff was the only one where you really saw these endings.
Yeah.
But it's not. Like, it's now how the industry, not the industry, how the company, I should say, well, actually is, because
kind of, yeah.
It's the preferred booking right now. But it's just annoying because it's everywhere. If it was just them and that was the thing that set Death Riders aside, that their matches were so violent that you didn't always get an ending because violence was more important. But you also nailed that the Death Rider story is just kind of lacking that heat. You have elements of it that are really good. Orange Cassidy always gets his pop. People love Hangman. They love Jay White. But it's kind of like they love the characters. I don't know if that's really the story related.
Yeah. Good point.
I think the problem is, it was my fear of the story in the beginning. Like, you can only for so long talk about a plan, talk about you have to do this, and not actually say what it is.
It's Arthur Morgan. Or he's Dutch, not Arthur, excuse me.
Yeah.
I got a plan.
Yeah, what's the plan? Like, if we knew what Moxley's end goal was, and it was something different than just I want to be champion, it might mean something because you could see what they're working towards and what other people are trying to prevent. But for the however many months now, it's just been, I gotta make it different. Okay, to what?
Yeah, we even get that backstage later, and he's just like, egos, egos, egos. Everybody has egos. We're gonna beat the egos out of them. We're making the place better. Like, it's so redundant. And the other thing with this match was you have your world champion involved, you have a trios champion involved, and there's no belts on the line. Like, I want stakes on matches that are progressing these storylines. Like, obviously you can't give Orange Cassidy a title shot, but the conglomeration gets a trios title shot if Pac gets pinned, and Jay White gets a title shot if Mox gets pinned, right? Or nobody does if it goes the other way. Like, things like that, I think are important. If you're going to have this many champions involved in matches, like, titles should be on the line, or title consequences at least should be at stakes, yep. I feel like. But post-match, we get Orange Cassidy trying to drag Hangman Adam Page off of Moxley, but Page shoves him. So they come to blows. White and Page come to blows. Just madness all around. But as that side of things is arguing, Moxley, Yuta, and Pac and Marina all attack. Surprise, surprise. And then we get the match graphic for Will Ospreay versus Claudio later, which hosed me down. I can't wait to talk about, but kind of more rinse, lather, repeat with that. If you want to add anything, feel free to.
No, you said it's just repetitive. Again, it goes back to if they want to make this Death Rider story, one, they should give him like I said, an actual plan. And two, if the plan is just that we're going to beat everyone in AEW down until they act the way we think is appropriate, then beat everyone down.
I do feel like this is something my frequent co-host Alex Pulowski had pointed out of what does that mean? When is enough, and that everybody needs to declare which side they're on, if that's the case. Because otherwise it's just an endless well of them to go after people, right? Like if you're not on the side of the Death Riders, even if you're not a part of the Death Riders, if you align with what they're saying, you have some clarity about who's on what side. So I'm with you. What does it mean? What does it mean to how many people, which ones? What does it mean to get your ego beaten out of you? And the other thing is, like, does Orange Cassidy come across as egotistical to you? No. Does Darby Allin? No. Like it doesn't feel like it feels like it's built on a house of cards. It feels like it's built on a house of cards, even with that. But
well, you have me now. I wasn't gonna get into it, but you have me on a little bit of a whatever here. I think they've kind of wasted the Orange Cassidy story.
Yes.
He was one of the originals. He was the guy who built himself up from comedy, doing his slow kicks, to being a legitimate contender for any title. The story of him falling apart because he can't protect his friends to come back to be the hero of AEW should have played out over a much longer time, not every week. There would have been these feuds in between where is Orange and what is happening with Orange, only to come back and save AEW when you think the Death Riders are about to finally put the nail in the coffin. When Darby's been fighting it, when Hangman's kind of been fighting it, but mostly for himself, when Switchblade's been doing the same thing, they needed someone who didn't do it for himself, that did it for his friends, for the people he cared about. But they kind of have already walked away from that. And I'm like, that was the babyface story that you had right there.
Yeah, and I feel like you're burning valuable Orange Cassidy gas in this. Honestly, and I know I'm just a disgusting stan of the guy. This feels like Eddie Kingston's story. It feels like Eddie Kingston is injured. And of all there'd be no AEW without me guys. Like Eddie Kingston, who legitimately had $12 in his pocket until Cody Rhodes gave him an open title shot, who has relationships with Jon Moxley already and Claudio that are so beautifully complex. Like, and someone who can make you care literally about a fucking cookie with his promos. And is going to match their freak as far as the level of violence goes. Like, this feels like an Eddie Kingston on the other side of the story. And he's not available. And it's like, you shouldn't have been attempting this without Eddie being on the other side. Because even if he's not the one to win, he's got to be the one that's giving Mox a run for his money in this, right? Like, and he's months away. He's still walking around with braces on. So, like, It feels like the guy with the relationships on the other side and the guy who you could accuse of having an ego because we've seen his mental health is so contingent on whether or not he's on a title trajectory or not. Like Kingston is, if he's not getting titles, he's spinning out of control. And if he's on his way to getting titles, he's fine. Like, this feels so ripe for Eddie Kingston to be walking into, and he's not available. And I don't buy that Jon Moxley thinks Orange Cassidy has an ego problem. I just don't buy it. I really don't. But kind of a bummer because that's the world title picture, and it was not my favorite thing on the show. But we had a barn burner of an episode, and we do get Christian up in the skyboxes there talking his shit, talking about wanting to cash in, which was really good stuff. Threatening that or levying basically that Jon Moxley should take a drink and go back to rehab so he can rehab the world title picture, which I'm always split on lines that are that dicey, but I feel like Christian Cage is the kind of guy to say it. So I'm okay with it here. But then we get an attack from Hook, and the production on this and all episode I thought was great. the production on the video packages and live production markedly better than previously. But I really liked what Christian tried to do to throw some heat on this. Nigel standing by his man always continues to make me laugh. What did you think of the Christian element jumping into all of this?
You're right. He's probably the only one of the few who could say there's a couple, but he's one of them. I think that just is because we all know that he's not taking dirty shots. Like, he's been around long enough where you're like, hey, that's not a unapproved line that's gonna hurt someone.
Yeah, and I think somebody else had said something. So obviously Mox is okay with that being on the table, because somebody else had said something along those lines that felt less warranted. But if he had a problem with it, he probably would have said something then, would have been my guess.
Yeah. I just like, though, that they're not making Christian change who he is.
Yes.
He's a heel. He's a bad guy. He says things he shouldn't say. And he's being exactly the same way with Mox. And that's perfect. It would really bother me if he came in and he was almost baby facing it, being like, you're hurting. Like, no, he's a jerk. Hook appearing in the door was great.
Great stuff. Really, really good.
I now understand why they hurt the arm and put the cast around. That really led well into him punching through that glass.
Yes.
So he had a nice protection on there. It was perfect. That was excellent. Where was the rest of the family? They're usually not far behind, but
it's true. I think maybe because he was up in a skybox, he thought he was safe. But this is what AEW used to be really good at and hasn't been good at as recently. Jeremy said this on In the Weeds on Fightful Overbooked, and I agree. Like, they used to be so good at these little sprinkles of continuing storylines without being like, here's an in-ring promo and a really long segment about it. Like, just week over week, there'd just be this like reminder, like these little reminder things. And that's what Hook coming into Attack felt like to me. It was like, we used to get that kind of shit all the time back in like the 2019 days or whatever. So I really was a fan of that. But I'll tell you what else I'm a fan of, Ryan. Bandito, a wanted man, riding into town on his horse, and 4 guys are waiting to arrest him, and Bandito acts like he's going to give himself up until he's just overcome by an ass kicking. This is so fun. This is really, really fun. These are great little reintroductions from someone who we've been missing for a long time here with Bandito. I'm glad he's coming back. Man, a long time ago, people were like, Bandito, Brian Keith, and Adam Page in a trio. And it makes these vignettes make me want that so bad. But I'm having fun with this. I actually liked this week's even better. But because last week I didn't know if it was trying to be campy. This week I'm like, oh, this is campy. Like, it is, and they know it, and that's great. What did you think of our old Western that we got playing out over here?
I'm about to say something that's going to sound insulting, and I mean it as a sincere compliment. This was so corny.
Yeah, it is.
And
it
I
rocks.
loved it so much. And I think the reason it works is in a world of wrestling where every company puts together these gritty, serious promos and these, like, just in AEW, you have the Death Riders and the style they're doing, like these serious things. To have something be so campy, like you said, campy, it's so corny and so silly, it actually makes it so different.
Yes, it stands out.
You know, I'm being asked, and I got to give the scale. It's a 4 out of 4 fun.
4 out of 4 fun. Okay, love that for us.
It just, again, sometimes you have to be silly to stand out, because wrestling has a habit of getting a little too gritty, a little too dark, and it does it all the time. Like, and they'll pull back from it for a while, and they'll get right back into that.
Big G saying that it reminded him of Lucha Underground, or her. I should have assumed. And it did have some of that to it. I had said for a bit, like, AEW right now isn't giving people any levity or relief anywhere. And this did that. And what I mean, I don't mean that everything in wrestling has to make you feel good, but when you have this very dark umbrella story hanging over everything, like Takeshita didn't have a story lined up. Danny Garcia immediately went into the C2. Private Party, we got some fun stuff later. Orange Cassidy is in a serious angle. Like, there's nothing that I'm just like, there's nothing that the show has designed to make me feel good. So I don't mean like discontent with the product. I mean, they're not intentionally creating content that makes me smile or laugh outside of Willow Nightingale's presence. So this was kind of fun because I got to smile through it. Also in my notes, I had put down regarding the Christian segment that Nigel said, Christian might be Father of the Year, but he's not Father Christmas. He can't fly, because it looked like Hook was going to try and throw him over the balcony, which was just incredible. Just incredible. But Ryan, something I really liked about tonight's show was the in-ring focus that we got. And holy hell, I had high expectations for Claudio versus Ospreay, and they still exceeded them in what I thought was a fucking awesome match. Certainly when we talk about collision of styles making matchups, this is what people are talking about. I love so much about what this was, because it felt like Will Ospreay, who normally looks dominant, escaped with a win here. And I love that coming off of a big loss to Kyle Fletcher, maybe he isn't as dominant as he was, but I also love that Claudio is a fucking badass. And he should be giving Will Ospreay a serious run for his money. Both tournament matches had kind of like a big man, small man dynamic. There's not that big of a size disparity between Ospreay and Claudio, but there is because of the styles that they wrestle. But man, we got like that ending sequence of the attempted hidden blade cut off by the uppercut, lariat by Claudio. I bit at that 29999. But the jackknife from Will, just what great storytelling of, I just got to get it done however I can. Like that jackknife pin looking desperate was so great on top of everything else that we got in this match. Phenomenal shit. Phenomenal stuff. The Ricola bomb countered by the flying octopus. Like, what the fuck? This was so good. I adored this. This was another one that got over 13 minutes. Like, this was my shit, Ryan. What did you think?
I don't know why you think these two would have a good match. They're not good wrestlers.
Yeah, I don't know what I was thinking either. They're, as far as like how they're in control of their styles, they're terrible.
By the way, before we get to the match, Joe nailed the comparison of what Ospreay's hair looks like. It's Brad from Home Improvement.
I had posted an old photo of JTT, and it was, I mean, they essentially, that was the 90s sitcom Son hair. Sean had posted Matt Damon in Good Will Hunting, and that was alarmingly close. But I had said AEW is his home and he wants to improve it, so it was a nice nod to the the Sons of Home Improvement.
It also kind of looks like the hair, what's his name, you said Drake Maverick in WWE used to have.
Oh yeah, I can buy that, but like even more so because Drake Mavericks was a little shorter. This was like Will Ospreay straightened his hair for this match.
Yeah, well, he wanted to impress all the girlies.
I don't know. He's got a time already.
I'm just saying. No, I'm not saying he wants any of them. We're just he wants to be the teen heartthrob.
I don't know if that's the case in 2024, but what were your thoughts on the match itself?
I wanted to keep talking about Tiger Beat, but fine. It was. Listen, it's Claudio versus Will Ospreay. I don't know if you could go wrong. They were gonna have not a tough. They delivered. I'm glad they wrestled the style of the match they did versus, because you had Ricochet versus Brody.
Yes,
Brody later, and that's a small guy versus a big guy. I didn't want Ospreay to necessarily play the small guy role here because he's really not. Like, he's entered that stage where it's hard for him. So I liked that, yes, he used his speed and Claudio used his strength, but it wasn't the tale of a small guy versus a big guy. It was a really desperate Ospreay. That's just what it felt like to me. And kind of a cocky Claudio.
Yeah, Dickhead Claudio is so much fun, man. Like he's just my favorite version of Claudio, and I love the big swing, and I love when we're rooting for him. But like arrogant prick Claudio is phenomenal. What was so interesting to your point is it almost followed the formula of a big guy, little guy match, but because he's not a small dude, like the story just felt way different than that. Like it felt more desperation than like overwhelmed by size and strength or whatever. So really good stuff. Really good stuff. But of course, Claudio attacks with a neutralizer and he goes out for the chair. But here comes Darby Allin. This was just so unnecessary. It felt like they knew they were going to do a backstage with Darby later. And they were like, well, if he's going to be here, we should send him out. We do have Darby Allin versus Ospreay next week. So I think this was supposed to be like a, oh, these guys thing. But Renee Pack heads backstage with Ricochet. And she asks how he's going to prepare for his match with Brody King. And Ricochet says, this is the stuff I'm here for, man. I came here for competitive matches. The C2 is full of them. Brody King might be a big bad guy, but he isn't Ricochet. And he has this delightful laugh about it. And then he heads out. So easy peasy. I kind of like the way they're building out Ricochet. He's just like, I'm here to wrestle. I'm here to kick ass and take names. Every promo he gives, it feels like the Hurt Syndicate invitation is still on the table to me.
Yeah. Like, I was waiting for it, to be quite honest with you.
Sure. Yeah, this was a rare week where we don't really have any Hurt Syndicate presence.
I'm going to say this as someone who really likes the Hurt Syndicate. I loved that they weren't here.
Yeah. Breathing room is good. I am with you. Yes, we need more of it, and we need more people showing up on Collision. Do that. The interesting thing with the Hurt Syndicate too is they have so many heavy hitters that like MVP's been so phenomenal on the mic. Bobby Lashley is incredible in the ring, but you also have Shelton Benjamin in the C2. So their presence is going to be felt throughout the week, whether or not you have Lashley on the show. And Shelton Benjamin is doing a fantastic job showcasing himself in the C2. So no brainer. But we see outside MJF pulling up to the ring. So that's how we know that he's going to be showing up later during the battle for the ring thing finals. So there you go. We get, I gotta say the production tonight with the recaps was much just like higher quality. I felt like everything was really sharp tonight. But we can't have nice things all the time. Jericho is here. And Learning Tree's there to beat up Matt Cardona. Yay. And Renee is talking to Matt Cardona, who reminds us all that he was one of the best heels on the indies. He's completely reinvented himself as the indie god and all of these fantastic heel characters to show up and work face against Chris Jericho at ROH. But he challenges Brad Keith for Rampage. I don't know, man.
Yeah, that is the odd thing. He's very much his success on the indies has been as a heel.
Yes.
Hell, his success in TNA was as a heel.
Yeah, I would say his face stuff when he first showed up was actively bad, and he had to turn heel.
Yeah, so I don't get the point of making him a face. And now I get you're going against Jericho, so you don't really have a choice. But they should tell him to almost treat it like Christian.
Sure.
Like,
I mean, that's the problem of not really having a story with this, right? Is it's like he almost is face de facto because there's absolutely no reason for this match to be happening.
no, yeah. Here's the thing, and I'm gonna say this, and you're gonna have to hear me out before I finish, before you yell at me. If ROH had a TV show, and ROH had its champions on its show weekly, and ROH had like a stories, everything, and they were doing like a normal wrestling show, I would not mind people like Cardona showing up for one-off championship attempts. You bring in a big name for outside, they come in, they make a championship attempt, and it doesn't happen. The problem is just that ROH doesn't have any of the other stuff I said before. So like your champs aren't on your show. There are stories. The people who have stories in ROH are killing it. But there's just no through line. There's no show. It doesn't make sense to be bringing in these outsiders for ROH when it's not really doing anything for ROH.
Big G asking, did Jericho ever wrestle Cardona in WWE? I think SP3 said
Yes.
in 2012.
I saw pictures of it. They definitely wrestled.
My God. I will say Jericho is much easier to handle in 2-minute segments backstage where he's talking about being like an icon of New York City. Like that stuff has gotten better to me because the comedy's gotten a little bit better and it's in these small doses, right? It's not taking up so much oxygen on TV. Him coming out there with a Rangers jersey and last week, like mixing up landmarks that were in Boston for stuff in New York. I'm like, okay, I can deal with that. But if Cardona's going to stick around ROH, like, sure, this is fine. I don't think he is. And I also, I hate sounding like an asshole when I'm speaking about talent. I'd much rather sound like an asshole speaking about creative, but like these random matches have overcome the lack of creative direction in ROH because the in-ring has bailed it out consistently. Jericho ain't got it anymore. They've been covering it up with plunder matches, and the matches with Briscoe were the best he's looked in a long time. But I said this on the ROH show too, like Cardona has a million things about him that are huge upsides. He doesn't have like the in-ring performance that ROH pay-per-view fans have come to expect, and certainly not the kind that's going to bail out Chris Jericho. Like it's just not. He's just not the ROH brand wrestler. Like that's kind of what feels off to me about this. But what are we going to do? We're moving along. Thank you guys for hanging out with us in the chat. If you could leave a thumbs up, that would be so nice as we move along to finally we get to Adam Cole versus MJF here. We've got Renee, who has Kyle O'Reilly in the back with Taven and Bennett. And Taven and Bennett say, hey, man, don't forget at the end of the day, you're one of us. And Kyle says, hey, maybe you should have thought about that before you let him get injured. Felt a little out of pocket by my sweet KOR. But fun match. You can definitely tell that Adam Cole is still getting his sea legs under him, but looking better week over week. The big thing here is MJF comes in to interfere and Adam Cole hits a super kick and holy crap, does he sell the shit out of it. It also was just a great camera angle because he was like on the apron or whatever. So he went flying into the oblivion, but he sold the hell out of that. I loved it. And he tried to hit him with the loaded fist because he has the ring right now. So good stuff there. I didn't love that we went to distraction roll up. It didn't work, so that's good, but they're not beating the SmackDown accusations when I say that of distraction roll up for a pin, but it didn't work until Cole reverses it and gets the 3 for that. So really nice amount of match times tonight. Pretty much everything between 11 and 13 minutes on the show, which was refreshing because it felt like that had been going away a little bit. But post-match, you've got Taven and Bennett coming down to celebrate with Cole. Max retreats through the crowd here, and O'Reilly kind of stalks out of the ring and refuses the handshake because Honor is dead, evidently. But man, I'm just glad we're finally getting this match between Cole and MJF. I hope the match exceeds expectations because I feel like the build has been just weird. Not even like outright bad, just weird. Just weird.
So you said it towards the end there, like Cole. People, I think, were starting to we're questioning a little bit. What would did Cole lose something in his in recovering from his injury? I guess is a better way to say it.
His own bones. He needs a dead guys. It's gonna take a minute. He has cadaver bone in him. Like it's gonna take a match or two, man.
Exactly. He had a little bit of roughness, so people panic and they go, "Oh my god, is he done?" No. He looked great tonight. This looked like
washed.
Yeah, he's not washed. Clearly, this was a great match. Interesting story, because it very much seems like Kyle O'Reilly is leaning towards turning on everyone, which I don't get. I mean, he actually has solid logic, which I really appreciate, but I just don't understand how I'm expected to boo him because he doesn't like that Adam Cole is going after MJF, because MJF then has beaten Adam Cole and has hurt Roddy Strong as a result. Like, Kyle O'Reilly's right. So like, how am I supposed to boo that? And
he's doing it like out of concern for his friend too. And also it's just hard to boo Kyle O'Reilly because like him transforming from the guy in the conglomeration to this quickly isn't believable. Guy who was throwing up Mark Briscoe's title in the air a couple months ago like it was a baby. It feels stark. It feels too stark of a transformation, but we will see.
They know where they want to go, but they're rushing to get there.
What do you mean?
Like, I think they know where they want Kyle O'Reilly and Adam Cole to be at the end of this MJF thing. I think the story, like, I think MJF honestly right now just feels like just a bystander in this whole thing. I think they have designs on where they want those two to be at the end of this story.
Sure.
And so they're rushing to get there by rushing through this Kyle O'Reilly story.
I think like I don't know if we needed to immediately go into Undisputed Era lore. to be real. Like that's something we could have done down the line. That would have been a fun ROH pay-per-view program to call back to. But also I love Kyle O'Reilly, so there you go. Deal with it.
Yeah.
He's perfect. I also am just sick of seeing people turn on their friends. Like Yuta turned on his friend. Kyle Fletcher turned on his friend. Like, what is going on with male friendships in AEW? Y'all need to talk more. Just saying.
They don't need to talk. They just need to, hug it out.
Well, that is acceptable too. But some good stuff coming up, though, to talk about. Whoo, boy. Our Gold League match tonight between Brody King and Ricochet. I loved the triple threat between Takeshita and Will Ospreay and Ricochet. I loved the one-on-one match that we got with Will Ospreay and Ricochet. Those I was expecting a certain thing from, and I got it, and that was great. I didn't really know what to expect with Ricochet and Brody King, and holy shit, this was awesome. This was one of my favorite tournament matches. You do have Ricochet winning to get 6 points here. Ricochet hit the spirit gun. And what was interesting here was the crowd started to turn on Ricochet. And it reminded me a lot of when people started to boo Ruby Soho because they just really wanted Chris Statlander to get a push and some love in the Owen. I think people are really, really into Brody King right now. I think people are really, really into Brody King right now. This match was fucking awesome. Like, I really didn't know what I was going to see going into it. I knew there was going to be a big man, little man dynamic. But the way that this wove in and out where you could see how strong Ricochet is, but like he's up against a fucking beast of a human being. I loved this. I loved this. Like there was a 6:30 in this that was a 1 count because Brody King is such a big bad dude. Like I just this was everything I could have wanted from this match, and I didn't know what to expect from it. But off to the races we were. The pacing of it was really brilliant because Ricochet can go a million miles an hour, but Brody is such a truck of a human being that it stopped it at points that were really fun. But also his conditioning's great, so he could meet Ricochet on a lot of stuff. This was one of my favorite tournament matches. I really wasn't expecting that to be the case, but God, the roster depth is ridiculous at AEW right now, which is why I'm glad that the stories are starting to turn in better directions, because this is like shouldn't even be a top 10 tournament match of all the combinations we get, and I ate all of this up. What did you think?
So as I said earlier with the Ospreay versus Claudio match, I was glad that didn't feel like small guy versus big guy. That was a whole different, because this was a small guy versus big guy, but in the best way possible. Brody is the perfect opponent for smaller guys, apparently, because like you look at his work with Darby, you look at his work with Ricochet, like he just knows how to sell and not sell at the right times and make these guys look like $1 million. Now, that's not to say Ricochet needs someone to make him look like $1 million, but it just helps, you know?
Yeah, well, Miro was really, I always thought that was Miro's best strength, was how does a guy like that sell realistically, but also know when to not sell, like you just said about Brody. Brody's got that too, of like, when do I make myself look affected, but when do I realistically look like the refrigerator that I am, and look impervious. Like how you make that look and work naturally, I don't know. That's a really good shout out by you. Really good shout out by you.
And I agree with you. The crowd was booing, not really booing. They didn't boo Ricochet. They were cheering Brody. And I think that's good, though, because it means it won't carry over for Ricochet. Like, this isn't going to be a problem for him. It's just going to be a problem for anyone facing Brody if they're a face. That Brody's clearly the one over. Like, you're hearing his, like, growling sound that he makes. That oof, oof, that the crowd's doing it. And he's just, he's a lot of fun, and he's genuinely intimidating to look at. Because, he's this huge tatted up guy. Like he looks like a badass. He works well. He's awesome. But I loved the move where Ricochet went to pin him, I think, and Brody just grabbed him by the throat.
Ridiculous. Like that's just so good.
But I also like call him Ricky. It's Ricochet. Jesus. Ricochet worked the style of just kind of trying to fly around, hit him here, hit him there, hit him, do this, do that. Like, I like that. Like, he had a sense of urgency of like, I got to keep the offense going.
Yes.
Because if I slow down,
I'm fucked.
I'm going to get creamed. Yeah. So just a well plotted match. You understood. I'm always going to compare it. Like, watching a wrestling match to me, a good wrestling match to me is like when you watch a good superhero fight, or if you're an anime fan, a good anime fight, where you understand like, the superhero is fighting against this enemy, and like what are the strengths and weaknesses of both, and they tell a story, and you understand within that story what the superhero is trying to overcome. So in this case, Ricochet is trying to overcome a guy who, if he gets his hands on him, it's over.
Agreed. Yeah, that was I like that, because that's also like we had a more typical small man, big man match, but like veteran small guy is a different story, right? Like he's not relying on his heart to get it through. Like you said, he knows if he stops for a second, he's screwed. So some good shit there. Some really, really good shit there. Really strong episode tonight. We had a lot of packages weaving in and out. We have FTR saying that Fyter Fest is going to mean a whole lot to them this year because of the hurricane and how they were both, Fight for the Fallen, not Fyter Fest, but they're in the Asheville, North Carolina area. They spoke to that a great deal, but Dax, I really thought shined in this when he said, we don't have a problem with the Death Riders, but they have an issue with him. He can come and talk things out in the ring, man. Like, put it in the ring. I feel like Dax has a propensity to do that in promos. Say, like, talk it out. You got an issue with me? Plain and simple. Pro wrestling. Let's do it. So some good things there. Your thoughts on that?
I don't have a lot of thoughts. I think what they said, I just waiting to see it play out. I think there's something going on there, and I'm waiting to see that play out. That's my thought. I think there's more to the story than we're seeing.
I really want FTR to turn heel and join them because
yes, that's kind of where I'm.
Yeah, FTR turning heel. Nobody would be a better heel to be like these kids and their egos than fucking Dax. He's not that far off from doing that online. He's just not an asshole. Like, so, like, I think that's where the money would be. Before our women's match, we have Anna Jay and Mercedes Moné setting up their TBS title match with face-to-face. I love Mercedes' little sistering Anna Jay in this. This has been some of my favorite stuff that she's done. She says that she's proud of Anna Jay, but by the time she was her age, she was already a 4-time champion, and that she's going to show her the tagline that there's a price to pay if you mess with Moné. And I like this from Anna Jay because she comes back and says, I was promised a match and I was promised a face-to-face because Mercedes tries to walk out of frame. And she says, no, you're going to listen to me. You're going to listen to me. And she just talks her shit and throws it right back at Mercedes here, saying that she's coming for the title. She's going to give her a fight. And we get, she was promised no physicality as well. That was the other piece of it. And we get a little physicality here with a slap across the face. So good stuff. Of course, this was done with Renee. So that's what's up. But Anna Jay said, basically, people keep underestimating me. I keep proving them wrong. Boom. Your thoughts on this? I'm actually very excited for the match.
I love the way you phrase that. Of she's, the way she's like little kidding Anna Jay, like so condescending and like, oh, you're doing so well, and I'm so proud of you. And yeah, I was better than you at your age, but that's okay.
You're doing great, sweetie. It was very.
Mercedes is. I like this for like. I think Mercedes is doing really well here. And Anna Jay, you're right. She gave it right back. I'm very curious to see what the plan is for Anna Jay after this. I guess that's where my head goes. Because I don't think she's going to win. So where do you go after this?
Yeah, if she gets made in this match, what's next for her is an interesting one. So we will find out. But that does lead to our long-awaited women's match, our championship defense. Very cool in wrestling that Raw, NXT, and Dynamite have all been main evented by women. So that's just a nice place to be in wrestling. But this lived up to the hype, man. Like I think Mina showed out. The second that she's a free agent, they need to sign her. Give her Juan Soto money. Do whatever you got to do. Like, she's so.
I don't know if I throw her Juan Soto money. Jesus Christ.
Throw her Juan Soto money.
Your return on investment there is terrible.
I didn't say I was a good business person. I just think Mina is great. Okay. So.
Fair.
But Mariah, no surprise here, retaining. She has a headbutt and a Storm Zero, and I really, really like that it took so much to put Mina away, and that she just kept kicking out at 2.8, 2.9. Like, there were a lot of near falls in this that I'm some people hate this. I love near falls. I'm a big fan of it. Especially towards the end of matches where you don't know when it's going to happen, but you know it's coming all day with that stuff. But I wish this was a little bit longer, but it was good and it was hard hitting, and they basically were on the gas the whole time. So no complaints there. But after Toni Storm, Outcast-ish version, old school Toni Storm, not timeless Toni Storm, that one retired. Timeless Toni Storm retired, but old school OG Toni Storm comes back as a surprise, and that's basically how we end the show. We do have Thunder Rosa with a what the fuck sign at ringside, but she was out there with her signs. I understand people who thought it was fun. I also understand people who felt like it was distracting as well. But I don't know how I feel about it, to be honest. I was just excited to see a good defense for Mariah May in the main event slot on a major episode of Dynamite. Like, that's good to me. I didn't really have too hard of an opinion one way or the other.
I understand why people might say it's distracting. The only thing I'll say is anytime it happens a lot in wrestling where they put like the next contender and they're sitting in the audience and they're watching. Well, this is no different. Yeah. She's just holding signs.
Yes.
I actually like that Mariah May doesn't have anyone with her because she's then winning all her matches on her own, which for a heel is rare anymore. And I like that. I think it makes her look stronger. I do wish this was a little bit longer. You know, you could have taken Jericho's time away and given it here, and it probably would have played out a little bit better. But overall, I love the match. You just knew you knew Mariah was going to win, but yet I still was having a lot of fun, and that's all that matters.
Yeah, I think we haven't gotten to see her show out like this in a little bit. The match with Anna Jay was great, but that was on Collision. And she felt obviously very comfortable with Mina. They clearly felt safe and good hitting each other really hard. And it's always fun to see Mariah actually get to wrestle with the wheels off because she does hit like a truck. And it's so counterintuitive to her diva-esque presentation. So I really like it. Which
I think works well if they let her do it more often, where they can showcase like, yeah, we present her as like this diva-esque thing, but the minute she's in the ring, she's beating the hell out of you. Like that is a fun dichotomy that if you play with it, really works. So then the question becomes: is this Toni Storm from here on out?
I think that is TBD. I'm okay with that because I don't know where you go with Timeless Toni anymore. Like, what does that chapter look like for her? Like, that version of her ending at All In where she's thanking the fans after a loss, but they really love her, so it's all okay, I think is fine. But she could also come back equally as insane next week and whatever. Like, I don't know. I don't know what that looks like, but I don't know how you end it differently because I don't think that character is sustainable forever.
No, it's not. Now, I think it'd be fun if she plays with the mannerisms a couple times. Like, it every now and again, something comes out and you're like, wait a minute, was that a bit of Timeless in you? But I really think the fun will be down the road. And you got to have patience. I know that's not a great thing in wrestling, but you got to have patience that down the road. So Laurent Ford is actually saying that he saw Jimmy Van post a theory that you have the different versions of the character as needed. And this is literally where I was going, that down the road, someone pushes her like to the breaking point again. And it's almost like a threat. Like, you don't want me to go to that place.
You don't want me to.
And for everyone else for everyone else, that place is like somewhere dark and for her, it's turning back into Timeless.
For her, it's just insane Hollywood star.
Yeah, like that's what I want. You have to have the patience for it so that it doesn't feel rushed. But if you pull that off, it'd be an all-time return.
You could do that, and the pacing of that could work with Australia if they tell that story now. That could be very fun. I'm also excited to see Thunder Rosa looking like she's getting lined up for a title shot in between now and Australia. I think that's probably your World's End match. I think that's good. They need a badass baby face who can. I think her and Mariah, from a stylistic standpoint, will just have a great match too. So, but I hear you. I hear you. But that is our show for tonight.
Wait. Did we talk about Private Party?
Oh my goodness. Thank you for catching that. We did not talk about Private Party, but essentially with Private Party, they say that Christmas is here, basically. They're champs. They're loving life. And Top Flight, both halves of them are at odds. And what I liked about this was, Ryan, we got like them talking about wins and losses, which we haven't had happening in the tag team division or in general in a while. And I love that is the catalyst for this. And I also love that they're using wins and losses as a way to try and evade the extremely obvious tension that there is between the two. Like, they're like, well, it's really just because of this that we deserve a title shot, right? So they're obviously at opposite sides of things, but they kind of haven't fully admitted it to each other. Also, I don't know why Leo Rush and Action Andretti look like little spike balls with their outfits, but they do. So
They're awesome. I mean, that's, you know.
Leo Rush can pull off anything. Action Andretti, I don't know what's happening.
I think Leo Rush is going to be the greatest thing ever that happened for Action Andretti.
Agreed.
Leo Rush, obviously talking. Action Andretti can wrestle, so you don't have to worry about that. It's really just, so like Leo Rush can provide the talking and give him a little bit of that R, where like maybe make him cool, where you're like, okay, I see what's going on here. What I liked most was, and this isn't insulting the people I'm about to name. This is legitimately has nothing to do with them. No Young Bucks, no FTR,
Yeah.
no the Acclaimed, no. Well, those really just the three. New.
Yeah.
Like these were
fresh.
It was fresh. You have your fresh champs with fresh challengers. I love it.
Minty fresh, even.
Yes, minty fresh.
There you go. Well, thank you for catching that, because I skipped right by it. Foolish of me. But we will close out our show for tonight. Really feels like we're headed in the right direction with Dynamite of late. These episodes are getting stronger. The only bummer is I feel like the thing that I like the least is the world title picture, which is not ideal. Not ideal since it's taking over the whole show. But before we depart here, we're gonna.
Hey, do you know this answer? Hold on. God darn it.
I don't know. I don't know if Chris Statlander is hurt. I will ask Sean Ross Sapp that. That's a good question. I didn't hear that she was. My guess is they're just trying to pick the right opportunity for her to come back at after losing to Mercedes. I'm sure they want to have her enter somewhere strong and very intentional, especially since the face turn was so abrupt and weird. So, but I'll ask. I'll certainly ask. Keep an eye out on Fightful stuff for that, whether you're a subscriber or not. That stuff always ends up getting posted on the free tier if it's injury related. So, but we'll close out. We have our t-shirts that we plugged earlier. Ryan, you don't have to pull up the website again because you did the first time around, but you can head over there. That's one of the best ways you can support us, but the best free way to support us. Leave a thumbs up on this video. Subscribe if you haven't already. And head over on audio platforms, too, to leave a 5-star review if you're listening in audio form. Vice versa is true. You could give us some love on YouTube. I'm going to let Ryan plug all of his stuff and our Mark Order stuff, but I'm going to be live at about 12:15 if I can get the dog out in time.
Who let the dog out? Who?
Well, I'm going to try to, that's what I'm saying.
Oh, okay. You can find us on all socials at Mark Order Pod. I'm usually the one you're talking to, so just be aware. You can follow my history blog, hereforhistory.com, Twitter @_hereforhistory, and Blue Sky Here for History. New article will be coming out relatively soon, and actually, if I ever like how I edit it, a YouTube video at some point in the future, and a podcast. It'll be both audio and video.
Right, is venturing into history content creation, which means that you hate everything you do in the beginning. So he's working through that. It's tough. It's tough putting out videos, but you can follow me at Miss Kate Fabe on social media. I will be live. Last time it unintentionally turned into like a 2-hour hangout. So I'm going to not do the video that we did the first time around and just have a little bit of a slumber party. If anybody wants to hang, you can join me over there at around the 12:15 mark. You can also catch me on Fightful. We'll probably be doing C2 breakdowns because we're absolute sickos about that tournament. But on the main channel, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday, covering NXT, ROH, and SmackDown at Fightful. Fightful Select on Mondays, doing your Sour Graps review and PLEs and post shows behind the paywall there. NXT has gotten good, which is very alarming. It's very weird. So I feel like I don't know who I am anymore. But join us over on Fightful and Fightful Select, and you'll see my face whether you want to or not, probably. So that's our show for tonight. Have a safe and wonderful rest of your wrestling week. We'll see you here next Wednesday. And then, man, we're closing in on Christmas and the end of the year. So wild stuff. But have a good night. See those of you who are ridiculous and wonderful and supportive at 12:15 on my YouTube channel.
All right. So this is the part of the show where I go, okay, I am putting up the commercial, the outro overlay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then I hit show outro.
Okay.
This concludes the Mark Order Podcast.